In the last few years, everyone has been talking about RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. But the problem is most tutorials either explain it theoretically or they show a very abstract demo where you don't really understand what is happening behind the scenes. In this video, I wanted to do something different. I wanted to build a complete RAG pipeline on Databricks from scratch, step by step, in a way where you can actually see every moving part. We will start with something very simple, a few PDF files. Then we will upload those PDFs inside Databricks, extract the text page by page, break that text into smaller chunks, convert those chunks into embeddings, and then build our own retrieval logic using vector similarity. After that, we will connect the retrieved chunks with a Databricks hosted language model and finally generate answers that are grounded in the PDF content. So by the end of this video, you will not just know how to use RAG, you will understand what actually happens inside a RAG system. You will understand why chunking matters, why embeddings are needed, how retrieval works, how the prompt is created, and how the final answer is generated using the retrieved content. And the best part is that we will do this inside Databricks using tools like PyPDF, LangChain text splitters, Databricks LangChain, Databricks embedding endpoints, and Databricks chat model endpoints. Now, this is not a fancy production level system, I agree. It does not have too many abstractions. This is just a foundation. Once you understand this, you can later replace the manual retrieval logic with actual vector database, add MLflow, use Unity Catalog, create APIs, build a chatbot, or turn this into a real enterprise-grade document question answering system. So if you are trying to understand RAG practically, especially in the Databricks ecosystem, this video will give you a very strong starting point. Let's begin by setting up the environments and loading our PDFs. So let us start with first part where we have to load the PDF and chunk those PDF before we actually start with the embedding process. Now, to start doing that, you have to first of all log in into your Databricks account, and then the next step would be to find some PDFs that you can work with during this video. So I've got these two PDFs of books that I was able to get online for free. So it's like Linux command and FD, that is fundamentals of data engineering. So this is just for an educational purpose. I found this videos on I found this PDFs online, and I thought that why not do a RAG demo on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my workspace, and you can see in my workspace I've got all these folders and files. So what I can do is I can possibly create a new folder for this project. So I'll call this project this folder as RAG demo on DB. That is Databricks, not database. Or I can be more explicit, that is RAG demo underscore Databricks. I'll create this folder, and within this folder I'll hold all my PDFs and or all my notebook files. Next, I'll create one more folder to hold my PDFs. I'll create a folder, and now I am inside the PDFs. Next, I would like to come here. I'll go to desktop, and I'll move all of these PDFs here. Now currently we are doing this as a manual process, but you can have a pipeline set up for this process which automatically stream new PDFs from your desired storage locations like Google Cloud Storage or buckets. Now I will click on this import, and I'll not bore you with this loading screen. So I'll pause this video and resume once it's done. Okay. So now you can see both of the PDF files have been successfully imported. Now what we need to do is we need to kind of do some experimentation on these files. So I'll go up a directory, and I will create a notebook here just to explore these PDFs. So I would like to basically read these PDFs and then use some sort of chunking method to chunk these. So let's see how we can achieve this. So first of all, the first thing is we need to have, one second. Okay, so I'll just connect my serverless and attach it to this notebook instance and let it refresh. Okay, so I think now I can attach my serverless in here, and it should take some seconds to activate it, and then I can start typing. So first thing first, I would like to import, not import, but rather install a package called PyPDF. Okay, so the idea of this package is that it will allow us to read the contents of the PDF that we just uploaded. So I'll just click on why it's not starting. Okay, so let's try running this. Maybe this spins up this serverless, and let's wait. Yeah, so now our serverless is started, and we should be able to use our PyPDF package really nicely. So from this, okay, yeah, we also need to run this command called dbutils.library.restartPython. What it will do is it will just restart the kernel, and it will allow us to use those packages that we just installed. Okay, so let's see where our PDFs exist. So these PDFs are existing within the PDFs directory. So what I can do is I can import my OS module, and I can maybe list the directory. Which directory I would like to list? Let's see. So first of all, I might want to see where I am. So os dot get current working directory, and this I want to print. So I would like to print my current working directory, and relative to that my PDF exists. We can see I am inside workspace users, then my email, and then rag demo databricks. So now what I can do is I can list the directory. So I can do something like os.path.join, and I can get my current working directory, and I can get my PDFs. So whatever we get after joining these two directories, we want to list the directory of that. Okay. It will have two PDFs. We already know that, but in your situation, it might consist of thousands of PDFs. Okay, but it is the solution that we are describing here is really scalable. Now, these gives us only the names. So we might want to build a base path kind of thing. So I would like to copy this from here, Control X, and I would like to paste here. Now what it will do is it will include the base path of PDFs, and after that we can do something like for file name in os.list directory, and here I can type my base path. Now I will get file name from here. What I want to do is I want to basically merge base path and file name so that I can get full absolute path. So I can do something like os.path.join. I will do base path and file name. Okay, and if I run this, I should be able to. Okay, this is not defined. Sorry. So I'll just rerun this again. Okay, no. So I can see now that I am printing this whole thing. Okay, so now that we are able to see how we can get the path of the file name, next step would be to read it. Now there might be a use case where your directory might contain other types of files. So in that case, you can do something like maybe something like file name dot ends with, and you can write something like dot pdf, and if this is true, then only you want to process it further. Okay, so you can do something like this. Okay, so now I would like to create a not dictionary, but rather a list. Now this list will hold all the pages of my PDF files, both the PDF files. So what I'll do is from here, when I let me do Control Z. I think I removed that part which was important. Okay. So I want to grab hold of full path. Okay, so this full path is there, os.path.join base path and then file name. And from this full path, I would like to read the PDF. So now I can define pages. Now, how do I read this PDF? To, to, to be able to do that, I want to import from PyPDF a module called PDF reader. PDF reader. And if I run this, now I can define a reader here. Reader is equal to PDF reader, and I can provide the full path here. After we define the reader, next task is to basically read the pages. So this is kind of an iterator. What I can do is I can do something like for page number and the actual page in, I can enumerate this this iterator by passing the reader. I can start it from a number, so I will do it. I don't want to do it from 0 because 0 is the default behavior of the Python. So I want to start with 1, and you will see why I care about the indexes and why do I want to start from 1. Okay. So first I want to get the text. So how do I do that? I can do something like page dot extract text. So this would give me the text piece of my page, and then I want to append it into the pages. So I would like to do pages dot append. Now I want to append a JSON or dictionary kind of structure. So I can have a text key which will be just text. I can have page number. Now that's where I would be using this page number. Now it will start directly from one page number, not 0. Why? Because I started it with 0. We started it with 1. If you did not specify this start is equal to 1, it would default to 0. Okay. So now if I run this, and after this whole loop is over, I can print the length of my pages just to see how many pages exist in both the PDF files. Let's see. It says it is not iteratable. Why is that? Did I import a wrong package from here? From PyPDF? Or maybe let me import PyPDF only. And then let me do PyPDF dot PDF reader. PDF reader. I think it's a correct thing to do. Okay, I see. I think I forgot to do reader dot pages because I want to get the pages also. So okay, let me confirm this deletion. Now it will work. So after this command gets executed, we should have a number of pages in both of these two PDF files. It's running. It's taking some seconds. I don't know why it's taking so long. It shouldn't take this long. So it's running for 21 seconds now. Okay, so total we have 952 pages. Now what else we want to do? The next direct step is to do the chunking step. Now why do I care about chunking? The reason for that is pretty simple. The embedding models that we have out there, they only accept texts of a given length. If we don't chunk, what will eventually happen is chunking will be done by the embedding model itself. So we might be better off by chunking. And there are some other advantages also for chunking, which we can cover in some later discussions. Now to be able to do the chunking piece, we would be using a package called LangChain text splitters. Okay. So for that we would have to install it first. So what I would like to install is let me see if I am pip install LangChain text splitter. I think they have changed. Okay, so LangChain text splitter. Okay, so this is the command. So let's grab this command and let's try to. And after this command, we also want to restart our Python. I think it would have made more sense to do the installation all at once. But as we are doing experimentation and learning, we can again run this cells. Okay, so let's run this. After LangChain text splitters are basically imported, the next step would be to basically use these. So what we are going to do is LangChain underscore text underscore splitters import recursive character text splitter. So this is the class that we are going to use. Now this splitter takes some arguments. Okay, so let's see those arguments. So I will define my splitter. That will be recursive. So I'll just grab this. Now it will take some arguments. Those arguments are, first of all, chunk size. What is my chunk size? Let's create a chunk of 500 characters. Now the next thing is chunk overlap. Overlap means if two different chunks are there, then how much text is overlapping between those two pieces of chunks. Then the third argument would be separators. You can have as many separators as you want, but we will be having simple separators so that we can capture most of the things by these. Although you can have some sophisticated separators also, but we'll be going with simple ones. Okay, yeah. So now our splitter is defined. After this, we can create our chunks, and what it will do is it will take this split text. It has this split text function, and it will take our this. It will basically, sorry, what I will do is I have this pages, and what I want to do is I want to get the chunks. Okay, so let's see how we can get the chunks from. First, let us run this cell so that our splitter is defined. So now let's see how splitter dot split text works. Now splitter dot split text takes a text. Okay, now what is the text? Let's see. I have got this pages. Pages is a list. Now, if I, let's say, print the first page entry, it will be the first page of first book, and obviously that will be less text heavy, so that we can see that output visually within. Pages is not defined because we restarted our Python. So I will have to kind of rerun these cells. Okay, let's wait for this to compute these pages one more time. Let's wait for a couple of more seconds. Okay, so we got our pages now. Now if I again run this, I should be able to see my page 0. Now in the page 0, there is a key called text, right? If I pass this text, what happens? Let's see. Key error, why? Okay, I think pages. Yeah, you see the chunks. Chunks are nothing but another string. Now let's say if this particular, let's pass some other key, maybe 100. Let's see what is the output. Just to show you how this chunking is working. You see, now there are multiple chunks. There would be multiple chunks. Okay, so to be able to see that, I'm not sure how I can show you that. Is it one chunk? Let me check the length of this. And if it is so, I will show you how you can get multiple chunks from a text. So you see, there are 6 chunks that got created from the page number 100. Now you get the idea, right? So I will create a list of chunks. I will loop through all the pages. So for page in pages, now I might also want to get its index. So I can get enumerate pages, and now inside this particular I can get the text from the page, and I can chunk it by calling this splitter dot split text, and in here I will pass the text. What I will get in here is chunks. Now I have to loop through chunks as well. So for chunk in chunks, have to append the chunks here. Okay, I have to append the chunk here, but I don't want to append chunk just like that. Okay, I want to append it in a JSON. So chunk is equal to chunk, and maybe I want to append some sort of ID. Now, how do I create this unique ID? So I can maybe create this ID by taking the I of the pages, or maybe I can get the this page number from the document itself. And since I am using double quotes, I have to use single here. I will uh, do a underscore, and then I can do something like, so for j comma chunks, I will enumerate this as well, and then I can do something like G, or maybe wrap it inside curly braces, and I can also add chunk ID underscore. Okay, so let me 1 second. Let me correct this. So now if I run this, I should be able to check the length of my chunks. So let's wait for a couple of seconds for it to complete. So I did very strange and very serious mistake. If you see, chunks is defined as list, and then I'm writing chunks again, and this will go inside an infinity loop. So that is why we need to rename it something else. So chunks subset maybe. Okay. So now I will uncomment. I added this for just debugging, and I'll just remove the print line. And now if I run this, it should be pretty fast. So let's comment it out. Yeah. So now we have got total 5,000 chunks. So let's look at one chunk for example. Okay, so we have got chunk. This is the chunk, and then ID. Cool. So the next step is to embed these chunks. Now, before embedding, you can have and you should have pre-processing step, which basically cleans out this text. But for now, I have not included the pre-processing, but you should definitely include it. Next, we will see how to embed these chunks. All right. So now that we have produced all the chunks from both of our PDFs, now we have several different options that we can go for. We can take our chunks, all the chunks that we have produced from the PDFs, and convert that into a data frame, and then that data frame can consequently be returned into a delta lake table. Okay, so that is one thing that we can do. So here I will show you quickly that. So chunks is essentially a list of JSON. So what I could do is I could let me first of all quickly run the cells. I'll import the pandas library, and there is one more library that I'm going to import, that is called Databricks LangChain. Okay, LangChain. So let's run this cell, and after this step, but let's wait for some time for it to first of all complete. And then let me write the code for, so after our pandas is installed, what I can do is I can do something like import pandas as pd and import pandas as pd, and then I can write this as data frame. So data frame, but let me refresh this also once again. I feel it is not loading properly. I might have to change my Wi-Fi. Let me do that quickly. And then let's refresh it again. And I think I should be able to now run this. Okay, so it's loading now because my internet was not connected earlier. That's why it was not happening. So yeah, so now that we have started downloading this, okay, I think I need to modify this also. Pandas and Databricks LangChain. LangChain. Let's run this again. Yes. Okay. And then meanwhile, I'll write this code. So import, one second, import pandas as pd, and I can write the data as pd dot data frame, and here I can simply write chunks. Okay. And then data dot head I can do. But before that, I think we need to let it complete first of all, and it's happening right now. Okay, not found, can't install database connect. Okay. Okay, so it's saying something, can't install, but let's see. You need to restart. Okay. Okay, all right. So let's restart the session. So let's run this. Let's read all the pages one more time. It would take 20 seconds. Let's do a chunking and let's look at the 100th chunk, and then let's run this as well. So okay, so where exactly it is? Yeah, so there it is. So we have got length of pages done, 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 and we can see our data frame. We have got this chunk and we have got this ID. Now we can load all the text fields, but before that, let me import from Databricks underscore LangChain. I would like to import a module called Databricks embedding. Sorry, import Databricks embedding. Now I need to create a model. Now the nice thing about Databricks, even the free version of Databricks, is that you get lot of embedding endpoints for free. So what I can do is I can define this class on top of a endpoint. Now endpoint that I'm going to be using is Database, and you don't need to deploy it yourself. So Databricks has deployed this already. BGE, large, and EN. Now after this model, after we have done this basically loading of model, now this is going to be using the endpoint, and endpoint we can see by going into the compute. Okay, so what I can do now is I can first of all run this, and then after that I can do something like model dot embed. Let's try to embed a simple query first of all. What is the meaning of life? Let's see what happens. So if I run this, it will use this model and it will produce this embedding, which is a list of floating point numbers. Now what I can do is I can install, or maybe let's try to import whether we have got NumPy installed or not, and I can wrap this up in np.array to check the shape. So you can see that the shape returns this shape. Now let's see if I can basically pass a list here. Let me copy this code and let me pass a list of inputs instead of single string. Let me first of all test it with just a list. and you will see it will not work. Why? Because input must be a string. Now, what happens if you have to embed multiple queries, multiple texts? So in that case, you have to use embed document. Okay. Let me change this to embed documents, and if I run this now, you should be able to see a shape of 1 comma 1024. Now the significance of this is that I can add to this list multiple documents or texts, and it will return 4 by 1024. Now the immediate consequence of that would be that I can take these chunks. So I can do something like data chunk dot to list. I can do something like this. Let me run this. Obviously it is a huge list. Now I can save this as texts, and I can do something like np.array model.embed documents, and I can pass all the text there. And here I can save this as embeddings. Let's run this and let's check the shape, and it will obviously take some amount of time. It is not an instantaneous you can say process. It might take up to 1 minute depending upon your account and limits. So let me pause this video and let it happen, but it shouldn't take that long. Okay, so it took about 3 minutes of runtime, but let's check the results. Embedding.shape returns the expected number. Okay, so now you can do again multiple things. You can save this embedding back to the data frame, that is this data frame, and then save that table in a delta table. You can do that obviously, but we won't be doing that here. What we want to do is we want to now take this embedding and convert this kind of embedding setup into a retrieval mechanism. Let's see next how we can do that. Okay, so now that we have all the embeddings saved inside this embeddings matrix, let us build a retrieval pipeline. Okay, so the idea is that given a query, what we are going to do is we are going to call the model.embed query and produce the query embedding, and then for that embedding we will produce a dot product of all the embeddings with the query embedding, and we will take the top score, and based on that we will see which particular document is most similar to the query. Okay, so let us get started. Before doing anything, we will be doing a normalization function, and before implementing the normalization function, I would like to talk about the shapes of this matrix. Okay, let's run this cell. So embeddings.shape has 5000 by 1000 shape. Now 1000 is the shape of the embedding itself. 5000 is the shape of chunk. So number of chunks divided by the dimension of the embedding. So we have got 5000 chunks. Each chunk has the embedding of shape 1000. Now what happens is, before doing any dot product, because the idea of dot product only makes sense for unit vectors, so we would like to make these embeddings as unit vectors by normalizing. So there is a function in the this in linear algebra called norm. Now what this norm does is, I will take the embedding, okay, and for each of these embedding I will produce its normalization, which is going to be a number. But let's see what does it give. So it gives an array of numbers, and if we check the shape of this array, you will see 5000. So we are getting 5000 numbers because we have done it along the first axis. So for each axis, for each embedding, so you can think of it like this to visualize it. So for first chunk, we are having how many numbers? 1024 numbers, okay, for each chunk. Second chunk, third chunk, and so on up to 5000 chunks. Okay, so we have got these many chunks here. Each chunk has got this many numbers. So for each chunk, what it is doing is it is producing one number. Now this one number is just kind of a, you can say, magnitude of these numbers. Okay, now when we get this, it kinds of change the shape. Okay, so what we can do is we can here pass this argument called keep dimension. Now what will happen after that is, it will not remove the second dimension, but keep that second dimension. Okay, so now what I can do is, I can save this particular result in something known as norms. Okay, sometimes it can happen that these norms are all zero. Now what we are going to be doing is, we are going to be dividing embeddings by norms to make them unit vectors. So before doing that, I don't want to accidentally make them divide by zero. So I will check wherever norms are zero, I will set it as a very small number, 1 to e to the power negative 12, something like that. Okay, now after that, what I can do is, I can divide embeddings by norms, and let's see what do we get. So we get this particular number, and I can kind of check the shape of it. Its shape won't be affected. So now I can rewrite this result back to maybe normalized embeddings, and this, one second, what is wrong here? Okay, shape norms. Okay, so now I will have this new set of vectors to work with. But since there will be come new queries, and each new query will have to be, so should follow this same exact process. So I would rather create a function for this. So I will say normalize, and it will take vectors, or rather I would say vector, and it will do this process here. Okay, so it will produce the norms, it will return this normalized norms, and here what I'll do is, I'll simply do return. Okay, so now what I can do is, but here in place of embeddings I will write vector. Okay, so now after that I can do something known as chunk vectors, and I can normalize it, I can pass embeddings. But not only that, now I can pass here the embeddings of query also. So it is a reusable function. So let's check the shape of chunk vectors. Let's take a query. Now to get the query, so let's see. Query, for example, is what is Python? Very simple query. Now I would like to get the embedding of it. So I'll say query vector, and you can see Genie code is already working its magic here. So I what I can do is, I can do something like model dot, where is my model? Model dot embed query. Model dot embed query, and here I can pass the query. Okay, and after that I might have to wrap it up inside np dot query. So after taking this query, I can get normalized query, and I can use the same function here, query vector, and let's see what do we get. So I'm saying access. Okay, I think I did not reshape it, because I need to, because what it will return is, let me show you what it returns. It returns a query vector, returns a this kind of. So I would like to reshape it so that it has one extra dimension, -1, 1, and now after this step is done, after this step is done, I should have a normalized query. What is happening here? So it's saying normalize of query vector. Now what is query vector? Let's see. So query vector is 1 by, okay, I see. I think I should have done 1, -1. So let's run this. Yeah, so now it's done. So now I am having this normalized query shape as this 5070 divided by, am I doing something wrong here? One second. Vector. Okay, I get it. So vectors norms. Okay. So now it will give us the correct result. Normalized query dot shape. Yeah, so you see our query is this. Now let's check our chunk vectors shape. chunk vector shape is 5070. And what I want to do is I want to take this query vector and I want to see which of these 5000 vectors are closest to this. For that, since both of these set of vectors are unit vectors, I can just take a dot product. Okay. So now how do I do that? How can I multiply these and this? So you can see its second dimension is equal to its second dimension. So what I can do is I can transpose it. So I can do something like chunk vector at the rate normalized vector dot transpose. Let's see what do we get. So it will be multiplied, and you see it is giving us a list of numbers. And how many numbers will there be? There will be 5000 numbers. So essentially this would represent scores. Okay, scores. And these are currently, so let me show you something. So if I check the shape of it, it will be having two dimensions. I want to flatten it. So what I will do is I will enclose both of these into a parenthesis and I will flatten it. Now I have a scores array of numbers. Okay, which these numbers represents scores. Now what I can do is I can sort these. So I will do something like np.argsort. I don't want to sort the numbers, I want to sort their arguments, that is the indexes. So I will do something like scores and let's see what do we get. So we are getting this index. Let's check this index. So I will take the scores and I will type 2760 and I'm trying to see the value. So you see this value looks low, which means it has sorted it in a ascending manner. How do I get its descending? So that first few numbers are the largest. So I have just reversed it. Now if I check this index 274, it will be the largest value. You see 0.668 would be the largest value. Now how many first few indexes do I want? I want k number of first k. Now how do I define k? K can be anything. Let's take 3 for example. So I can do something like top IDs. So it will be this. So how many IDs do we have? I have got these 3 IDs. So what will happen? Now what I want to do is I want to, let me add few code blocks. These IDs directly correspond to this data frame that I had, that I created here, chunks and ID. Okay, so I might want to relate these IDs to this. So what I can do is I can come here, I can do something like data dot ilog. Now which index? I have to take the index 274. Let's run this. What do we get? We get this. Okay, it's known as the second best language. Okay, now can I convert this into dictionary? Let's see. Now why I am showing you this? Yeah, I can convert it into a dictionary. Now what I can do is I can loop through this. I can do something like results or maybe top matches results. So for I in top IDs, I will take my data and I will take this and I will append this into top. I will append the results into top matches results. Okay, so if I run this and if I get the top matches results, so you see now it is giving me the results of the query that is similar to my Python one. So Python is mentioned here, Python is mentioned here as well, Python is mentioned here as well. Okay, all right, cool. So I would like to take this functionality and wrap it up inside a reusable function so that I can take any query and produce its top matches. Okay, so let me see. So this is the scores. So I'm just copying pasting all of these things so that I can produce a reusable function. So now what I can do is I can define a function called retrieve. Retrieve, and this retrieve will be taking a query and maybe k. K's default value is 3. and now I will indent all of this code. Okay, so now query I can remove now because it will be coming from the parameter. So this is my query vector, then normalized, then scores. Okay, again k I can remove because this is again is going to come from the argument. Then we have top IDs. I don't need to print this. I have got this top matches results. I'll just return it. Okay, now I have this reusable function which I can call multiple times. So let me retrieve some queries. So I will first retrieve what is Java, not Python, but what is Java. Let's run this. Okay, so it is known as the second best. JVM is generally okay. Cool. Now let's try to run it with maybe what is Linux. Okay, so introduction, how the Linux is not just a piece. So you get what we are trying to do, right? We are trying to get top documents. Now we have built the retrieval part. Okay, next we are going to augment it to build the generation part. And again, just like we used Databricks LangChains, Databricks embedding to get the embeddings, we'll be using similar functionality to chat with our retrieval. So let's see that next in action. Okay, so the last missing piece in our endeavor to create the RAG on Databricks is to create the generation part. We have implemented the retrieval part. So let's quickly reload this notebook. And then after retrieval part, we will have to implement the generation part. To start with the generation part, I would like to quickly set up the LLM model provided by Databricks, even in the free edition, deployed for you free of cost. So what you would like to do is from Databricks LangChain, import chat Databricks, and you would like to define the chat model. Okay, chat Databricks. So there are three things that you can specify. There are other things as well, but I think these three things you should specify. I'm keeping temperature low because I want it to be less creative and more based on the sources. Okay, so max tokens I'm setting it as 500. Now what is the endpoint? Endpoint will be determined by what all endpoints are available in your account. Free edition has a Llama deployed free of cost for you, so I will be using that only. So Databricks Meta Llama 33, and you don't need to memorize this number because I am also typing it by looking at somewhere. So instruct. So after this model is loaded, and again remember this model is not being loaded into the memory, it's an endpoint. So now I can invoke this endpoint using some prompt. Okay, and I can save it somewhere. So let's not save it. Let's ask what is the meaning of life. Okay, and let's see what do we get. Okay, so it's taking some time. Let's see what does it return. Okay, so you see it has returned a really long paragraph. Okay, and you see it's an AI message which has a content. So it means that I can strip content from it. Okay, so I can do something like content. So let's see if it succeeds or not. What is the meaning of life? Maybe in one sentence. Let it complete and then we'll run this. Okay, let's run this again. The meaning of life is to find purpose, happiness, and fulfillment through personal growth, relationship, and contribution to the world. Okay, so now that we know how to use this model, let's integrate that within a within our retrieval pipeline. So we have the retrieval ready. So here is our retrieval function. Okay, suppose a query comes. Now, how do we go about building the generation part? To build the generation part, suppose I have to first of all create a prompt. Okay, so I will define this function called create underscore prompt, which is going to take retrieved sources. So retrieved sources, and it will also take the original question. So I will be very simple. here I can define a prompt and I can define a context. Context will be directly coming from retrieved sources. Now retrieved sources has what? It has chunk, it has ID. So what I will do is, now you can imagine that your retrieve chunk can have many more useful pieces of information like file names, etc. So that those can be cited by the LLM. But here I have kept this very simple. So what I'll do is I will build this context. I'll say for R or maybe RS in retrieve sources, I will take context and I will append to it source 1 and I will create a f string and I will take RS and get its chunk text. Okay. So now source 1. Now what is this source 1? I can also get it from a number. Get it. I will keep it as a numeric. So I can do something like RS and I plus 1. Okay. So now I have this context. Now what is prompt? You are a helpful assistant who answers the question in a professional manner, only grounded in provided sources, provided context. This is the question and this is the source. Okay, so I'll define again f string and the question is our question and context is context. Okay, do not move away from, I know this is not a very good prompt, but again, do not away from the topic. But Genie is there for helping me. So do not move away from the topic. Okay, so I think this looks good. After that, I'll return the prompt. Okay, all right. So now what is my task? Let's define a query. My query is what is the, maybe let me ask something, maybe a weird question, which is not there in, but we'll try it later. But first, let us ask what is Python? Simple question. So what do we need to do first? We need to retrieve the documents. Okay. So I'll say retrieved sources is equal to retrieve, and this retrieve will take the query. And how many sources do I want to base my decision on? Let's keep it as 4. Now I have got the retrieve sources. Let's build the prompt. Prompt is equal to create prompt. It will take the retrieve sources and it will also take the query. Okay. And let's run this. And let's print the prompt. What is happening? Chat Databricks has, okay, I think I have overwritten the model part. I should have renamed this model as query model and this model as, okay, let me reload these. 1 second. I will, sorry for that. So I'll run this cell. So that model is defined as the embedding model. Now let me run this again. It should work. Okay, so now we can print the prompt. Prompt will be the long text. You see, you are a helpful assistant who answers the query in a professional manner, only grounded in provided sources, and we have the sources listed here. Source 4, source 3. Okay. So now I take this prompt and I just simply take my chat model. So I'll rerun this. I'll take my chat model dot prompt, sorry, dot invoke, and I'll pass the prompt. Okay. So let's save it as response and let's print response.content. Let's run this. And now you see, based on the provided context from source 1, Python is referred to as the second. You see, now we are starting to see our RAG pipeline fully set up. So now I can modularize this whole thing. I can do something like define RAG query and in place of query, now I remove this. So retrieved sources will retrieve from this prompt, this. Now this is actually a answer, right? I might have to respond, return a full JSON, maybe with the original question. My original question is this query. My retrieved sources are, let me get this. So I'm returning the sources as well. I might have to post process this, and my answer is this. So now we have built the entire RAG pipeline, and we can now test it out with all sorts of queries. So let's ask some really stupid and dumb questions which we know that are not covered in our documents. So let's run this. What is the capital of France? Okay, you see, now it has returned the whole JSON. This I might have to get the answer part. So let me click on it and let's see the answer. Where is the answer? Okay, shit. Sorry for that. So let's run this again. So what's the capital of France? The provided context does not maintain information about the capital of France. The sources appear to be related to Linux programming technology but do not mention. I cannot provide an answer to the question based on the given context. So RAG seems to be working really good. Now I can ask any other question also. What is AI maybe? What is AI? So let's run this and let's see. So you see, it has tried to, based on the provided context, AI is not explicitly defined, but it is mentioned. Okay, so I think now we are done with this whole session on building RAG on Databricks. Let me know if you have some feedback or any other topics that you would like to get covered in this channel. Okay, so thank you so much.